So I was listening to a Neville Goddard reading this morning, and it talked about how a lot of times we can't see or experience what we're hoping for because we're in the wrong state. You can't be in a state of abundance if you're feeling like you're in a state of lack. You can't feel like you're in a state of love when you feel lonely. And the thing is, he's talking about manifestation, and that kind of seems like a hard issue for some people to realize that that's a possibility in their life, that manifesting thing. But this whole thing is really no different than what Tesla or Einstein said, or even Edison. You can't solve a problem in the same state that created it. That's why I believe it was Edison would think about the problem and then fall asleep, and he had a heavy metal ball in his hand. So he'd fall asleep thinking of the problem, and then once he fell asleep, the ball would drop and he'd wake up with his subconscious already working on the solution for the problem. So he was in a different state to come up with the answer. And Einstein often would get up in the middle of the night with visions or dreams or ideas that he couldn't figure out in his waking hours, because his waking hours were always trying to figure out what the answer to the problem was. You know, it was always concentrated on the problem existing, on the problem being what needed to be solved. But then when you get the answer, you're in a state of being with the answer, with the solution, with what's necessary to create the next step. So you're no longer thinking of the problem. What is the problem? What do I have to solve? How do I fix the problem? You're literally just sitting there thinking, oh, this is a solution. This is the way it works. This is how I create it. And even in the Bible, it talks about praying in faith. When you pray out of lack or desperation or fear, you're in that state of it not being there, not being present. If you pray in a state of faith and belief, then you are already in a place where the answer already exists, where it's already come to fruition, where you're not in that position anymore. And a lot of times we have a hard time figuring out what state we're in because we try to use the right words for the state we want to be in, but the feelings are what really have to align. We have to have belief, we have to have confidence, we have to have faith in it existing, that the answer's happening, that we're heard, that it's going to be okay. And so let me give you just kind of a real world analogy of a way to think of this that might help. You might be talking to somebody online about what your area where you live is known for as far as food. And one person says, oh, I live in Portland and we're famous for a clam chowder, even though Boston's more famous. And you think, oh, well, I lived in Portland for a while, and you know, I always thought it was maybe like just kind of the food trucks and the variety, you know. And the other person's like, food trucks? What are you talking about? We have like a couple here. What are you talking about? And the other person's like, well, we don't really specialize in seafood here. We cook everything else though. And what I realize is there's two different states. There's Portland, Maine, and there's Portland, Oregon. And so the disconnect is, if you're talking about the favorite food from there, you're thinking about the one you're in or the one you know. And so there's a disconnect. So think about it that way, being in the wrong state. There's also, I a Kansas City, Missouri, and a Kansas City, Kansas. So let's say you're going on a blind date and you go, oh, let's go to Rob's barbecue and stuff. It's right downtown. And the person's like, oh, that sounds great. Well, they Google it. They can't find it. Like, I can't find this place. Did they go out of business? Or like, no, matter of fact, I'm almost there. I was just there last night. That's why I wanted to go back again, because the food is so good. And the person's like, I can't find it. My Waze can't find it. My maps can't find it. There's another barbecue place, but it's called Chucky's or something. And he goes, Chucky's? No, there's no Chucky's down here. And I just pulled up to Rob's and it's here. They're like, well, what street are you on? Oh, I'm on First and Overland Park Expressway, you know, or whatever it is. And they're like, Overland Express Park, that's Kansas City, that's Kansas. And you're like, well, where are you? Well, I'm in Kansas City, Missouri. Oh, different states. So think about it that way, you know, and if you want to even spread out farther, there's a Paris, Texas, United States, and a Paris, France. And if you're talking about the best food from your Paris, I really doubt that barbecue and steaks are what you're going to find in France. And I really doubt you're going to find gourmet escargot, snails, in the middle of Texas. So think about it that way. When you are asking, when you're trying to manifest, when you're looking at things, realize what state you're looking at them from. Are you looking at them from a state where the answers don't exist, the things you want don't exist? Or are you asking from a state where they do exist? So drive from Kansas City to Missouri to Kansas City, Kansas in your mind. Go from the East Coast in Portland, Maine to the West Coast in Portland, Oregon in your mind to get your answer to the question you asked in the other one. You know, ask the question in Paris, Texas, but find your answer in Paris, France. You can't get the solutions from the same area that caused the problems. I know that's a kind of a silly way to look at it, but maybe just that realization, that physicalness, will help you understand the difference between the state of the solution being a completely different state of the problem. A state of lack being a different state than that of manifestation and wealth and abundance. A state of love being in a different state than loneliness. A state of peace and happiness is different than a state of fear and desperation. It's just kind of a different way to look at it. So ask the question, whatever state you're in, but find your solution in that other state, and maybe even mentally travel. You know, okay, gotta figure out how to do this here. Okay, I'm gonna drive in my mind to a different state where the answer is, where the realization is, where the connections are. Think about how different things can be if you're in that different state.